Warning, we are not your attorneys. Please, don't take anything we say as legal advice. I'm Geoff.
I'm Mike.
And I'm Derek.
And you are listening to the Not So Grand Jury,
which is now sponsored by Morwa P. LLC. Hey everyone, Derek here with a much longer sidebar than we anticipated. Two things for you today. First is a relatively straightforward one. As we've been doing recently, we are going to give you a heads up on next week's episode. Next week's episode, we are going to talk about the Lincoln Lawyer Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. Episode 1 being called The Rules of Professional Conduct, and Episode 2 called Obligations. So if you have time in the next week, feel free to take a look at the first two episodes of Season 2 of The Lincoln Lawyer. That's on Netflix. No spoilers, but Geoff and Mike have opinions, to say the least. So get excited for that. And then next, after we recorded Her, which we had put out last week, we decided to get into a long conversation about AI. We originally were just planning to talk for, a normal 10 to 15 minute sidebar, and we went for a lot longer than that. So apologies for how long it is, but I actually think it's a very interesting conversation for those of you who are really interested in where the law is going in AI. I do think you will enjoy the conversation. Without further ado, here is all three of us talking about AI and the law.
So last episode we were discussing the film Her, and I thought we would follow up with a quick little sidebar of just our own interactions with AI and the law, and the area of AI and the law in general, how we see it developing.
Because Geoff and I had such a great time talking about Her, we wanted to find some positive thing to talk about afterwards.
I know you guys really hate watching Academy Award-winning movies.
We do suck. We do suck.
I mean, didn't Crash win an Oscar?
They won Best Picture.
So I don't feel bad.
So they don't necessarily get them all right.
No.
What do we want to do about this? Do we want to talk about our own sort of examples?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you guys have any stories you want to tell. I'm dealing with one right now where it's a pro se defendant, and in some cases, there are these stories out there that we will talk about where a party is using AI to write their briefs and they're messing things up in horrible ways. In this case, I know the person is pro se, and some of the things that they've done with AI have been helpful, where sometimes you will get a pro se party in a complaint, and what they wrote down, the response or the complaint, is just a madman with a crayon writing a complaint.
Sure.
In this case, they filed some motions that are wrong, but at least it's like something I can respond to, and it's
in whole sentences.
Yeah, it's a cogent. Like there was a moment where there was a case management conference, and in Philadelphia, you have case management conferences early on in the life cycle of a lawsuit, just to say what's going to happen, what are the dates we're looking at for a trial, and the party objected, saying, "I'm heavily pregnant. I can't possibly attend this. I don't have time to prepare." And the thing is, you don't have to attend. It can be a Zoom call. It can be a phone call. They are Zoom calls. So I objected, and they ended up holding it. But that was a reasonable objection. I could understand, and during the phone call, you should say, or during the Zoom call, you should say, "I'm heavily pregnant. I can't go to trial for however many months." Now, the person has also filed some other motions that are citing made-up law, and that is a common problem that we'll probably talk about more with these generative AI legal documents. In this case, some of them were pretty easy to spot because it was, a case that's supposed to take place in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, but it somehow involves two Florida corporations. It's like Florida Atlantic versus Florida something. And it's like, well, that probably didn't happen. It is a bit of a pain in the butt as someone trying to figure out if your opponent is using fake law, because you can put it into Westlaw, and there's a tool that will sort it if it's in Westlaw. But that's not 100%, and it can be wrong even for real cases. So you do have to go to the next step of going to other sources and seeing if it exists. But it is pretty. I'm filing my response to one of these motions right now, and I'm expecting their motion is going to get thrown out if for no other reason than they're citing a bunch of, at least, 3 of the cases are made up.
Interesting. So first off, there are things that it is a challenge going through, opposing parties' briefs. And I always have to check the law because, especially in my area, people really like to misconstrue what cases say. In fact, I know of one law school that wrongly teaches at least one key recent Supreme Court case. So I'm always having to check that what anybody is citing a case for is actually what that case says. The interesting question for me is how much time I have to start spending now reviewing what my law clerks produce to see if it has been. Now, law clerks get stuff wrong too. You're supposed to, as the supervisor, you're supposed to check them. But now it's like I am going through those with a fine-tooth comb to see whether or not they're using too many M dashes, so to speak.
As it were. Well, and I also know, and again, I forget if we've talked about this on the podcast before, there was a New York case from 2023 that really sort of started this whole, it's definitely a seminal case. It was called Mata versus Avianca, and it was in the Southern District of New York. There's 2 things I have connected sort of to the case. One is that the Judge Castell, I was actually in front of for one of my cases. Oh, okay. He is a senior judge who does not take shit. That was not the judge to be in front of in this situation. I'm not saying federal judges would let them go, but this judge was not having it. And I'm sure if you look at the transcript, that judge wasn't having it. Yeah.
I have some of the transcript here, by the way. The judge. Did you say, well, the LLM gave me part of Varghese, which is a case that the attorney cited in his brief? Did you say, well, the LLM gave me part of Varghese, let me look at the full Varghese decision? And the lawyer responded, I did. And the judge asked, and what did you find when you went to look up the full decision? I couldn't find it. And yet you cited it in the brief to me. And the lawyer responded, I did. Again, operating under the false assumption and disbelief, I think he means belief, that this website could produce completely fabricated cases. And if I knew that, I obviously never would have submitted these cases. There's then I'm then going to jump ahead in the transcript where he essentially turned back to ChatGPT to fact check ChatGPT. And we actually have a transcript of his exchange with ChatGPT. The lawyer asked ChatGPT, is Varghese a real case? Yes. Varghese v. China Southern Airlines Co. Limited citation is a real case. What is your source? I apologize for the confusion earlier. Upon double checking, I found that the case does indeed exist and can be found on legal research databases such as Westlaw and LexisNexis. I apologize for any inconvenience or confusion my early responses maybe have caused. The lawyer asks, are the other cases you provided fake? ChatGPT. No, the other cases I provided are real and can be found in reputable legal databases. Except the attorney never bothered to go check.
Well, and wasn't the issue, I recall the issue is that they didn't have Westlaw or Lexis at the firm. They had got rid of the subscription.
They had Fastcase or some,
right.
one of the very useful but more budget legal research tools.
Right. And what's interesting about, there's a couple things that are interesting about that case. One was that, I don't know about you guys, but that got thrown around all of my text chains and email chains. Mm-hmm. Again, I'm not at the big firm. I can only imagine the big firms had multiple CLEs about this to not screw this up.
Oh, absolutely.
A couple firms so I'm of counsel to a firm in New York. They certainly sent that around to be like, take a look at this. Do not do this. Thank you. Good talk. And I had many friends who are colleagues of mine who all sort of talked about it. This is really that sort of that case that scares the bejesus out of lawyers and just goes, nope, we're not going to do this.
And yet this has become essentially constant. There are at least 2 websites I can think of that just track these kinds of things.
I was looking at Damien.
If you could send me that, I would appreciate it.
It's DamienCharlatan.com is one of them where he tracks it. And By the way, I'm just looking from December 3.
By the way, not an ad for that website.
Not an ad for that website, but it's a very good website that tracks legal decisions where generative AI produced like hallucinated content, like fake citations.
And if they wanted to advertise on here,
Yeah.
It lists off 5 cases, and this does go beyond just the US. It has other cases as well. 5 just from December 18th alone. Like
Of this December, like the month we're currently in.
3 days ago, there were 5 cases that came down where there was fabricated case law because of AI.
This is why I will never have a ChatGPT account.
And again,
I think that's the wrong reaction. I understand not wanting to use ChatGPT, but if you're just never using the AI, you're eventually going to end up as the old man who doesn't know how to use their email.
Jeff Blackwell yells at clouds.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
there are useful things that I've used it for like drafting deposition questions.
So that was going to be my next question for you is, what are the good, because I do think there are things that large language models are good at. That doesn't mean I'm going to go out and buy a ChatGPT account.
It's good.
I have Lexis for those things.
And Westlaw has their own version, which I'll tell a story about Westlaw in a second. But like the things I've personally been using, when I've tried to use it for legal research, it is overwhelmingly crap. Occasionally finds a good real case that I would not have found otherwise. But you have to verify everything. It takes forever to verify everything, which limits its usefulness. You're spending as much time researching as you are spending like cleaning it up.
Right. In my view, it's like worse than having a law clerk. Because when you have a law clerk, you know it's an educational experience for them. You are essentially their instructor. There is a time commitment. But you also expect that they have been through at least a year of law school. ChatGPT has not. And so
the things that it's good for, I think, starts with things that are easy to immediately verify. So it's difficult to verify if a case is real without having to do all the research yourself. But if I give, and obviously there's a security aspect that we'll get into this in a moment probably. Yeah. But what I will do is like give a brief outline of a case that is, not giving any sensitive information away. And my firm has rules about like what can be shared on different AI programs. If it's on our secure internet, then we can use certain things. But OpenAI, we can never give like secure information to. But I could give a brief outline of like slip and fall case. These are the parties. This is the rough history. What are good questions to ask? Draft me a deposition outline. I can look at that. I can review that myself. Are there any other questions I should ask? And like sometimes it comes up with like good questions I would not have thought of.
Okay.
And it's like this is something that like would take me a decent amount of time otherwise if I didn't have a sample. And it can do pretty well on its own, and I can review it myself and make sure that it works. Like reading through it once, I can figure out which questions work or not. And I'm usually only using an outline of that anyway.
Gotcha. And that makes sense. You're not citing case law or anything in
I would
deposition questions. Sure.
On the note of research my firm made me do some additional Westlaw training. We had to all update our Westlaw training.
Okay.
And Westlaw was really pushing their version of their AI. And they said in it, our AI does not hallucinate. We fixed that.
Sure. Yeah.
And I did a research project on something that like I know the law very well. Real estate law is my background. And I was like, if you have an unwanted guest at a hotel, do you evict them or eject them? I have a strong opinion on this. And Westlaw's AI came back with, it did not hallucinate a case. It hallucinated a cause of action. The cause of action is like, you don't evict or eject them. What you do is a summary ejectment. And it cited a case from 1850 that I never would have found this case, to be fair. And I looked up, it's a real case, and it's actually like an interesting case that I would cite if I were ever writing a brief on this. But what they're describing in that case is physically picking the person up and throwing them out. Like you can't do that as the owner of the hotel.
That is their version of summary ejectment. Is
yes,
pick the person up, throw them out of hotel.
It was a fun case to read. Like I could totally see myself citing this in the future, and I'm happy that I have it in my pocket now. But like, it's just you can't trust the thing that they told me it wouldn't do. They said it wouldn't hallucinate, and the first sentence it hallucinates.
And I can see it being useful for so a lot of the entry level legal stuff, document review. So for the listener, first year lawyers just out of law school, if you're going to any of the big firms, you are stuck in a basement given boxes of paper that were handed over by the other side in discovery, or that your client has to produce in discovery, and going through it page by page, line by line. And I could see very easily an LLM or equivalent being very good at, review this document and tag every page that contains this term, or every photo that contains an image of this person. And I could see it being reasonably reliable at that, perhaps better than a first-year lawyer.
And I will say, when I was at my big firm, and this was again 2009 to 2014, it wasn't the best at the time, but it was doing a good job of being like trying to identify based on a percentage whether a document was going to be responsive or not when you were doing research. Now, we still needed to get a lawyer to put their eyes on all the documents, but it did sort of, you were able to take the documents they gave you and put like ones that were highly percentage into one folder of like, these are probably very responsive, and then having a bunch in the other folder that are all very lower, and maybe give those to a legal assistant, a paralegal, or a first year and be like, just make sure there's nothing that pops out in here. And occasionally something would pop out. More recently, they've done a decent job, and I'm actually using one right now in one of my cases, where you're getting an AI summary of certain documents. You can give the program like 40 spreadsheets that changed over the course of time and say, how did this spreadsheet change? And it will actually do a decent job of explaining it to you, or at least giving you a decent overview, right? I think AI can be helpful for that. You still need a lawyer to look at them, though, and you still need a lawyer to confirm them. And to me, at least, and granted, you guys all do mostly litigation?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I do a fair amount on the transactional side, so I do a lot of contract drafting, contract review, other things on sort of the internal business side. It is much more helpful on that side. Like, in terms of giving me like a base level contract, or taking my base level contracts and adding provisions, or even just me saying, hey, draft me up a provision that does X, Y, or Z. I'm not going to use it as is, but it's better than me drafting it from a previous, whatever. So I think it is very helpful for that. And I'm not using ChatGPT. I have a different service I use that is more legal based, that I've trained to the extent I can train him or her. It's an AI that's very legal based. So I can train it to use some of my templates to do things like that. It is much more helpful on that side. The litigation side is still tough. And I'm going to use an example. And one of the judges that I'm currently in front of in one of my cases where I'm about to go to trial, she added within the last month a requirement, as some of the federal courts have done, that you have to do a certification with every motion or hearing, or basically any submission that relates to a motion, a hearing, or a trial. You have to include a certification that says either that no generative AI program was used in drafting it, or that a generative AI program was used, and you have to say where it was used. You have to confirm that a lawyer reviewed it for accuracy and approval, and you have to identify specifically what the program was and what actually happened. I'm not going to lie. I have no plans to ever put in a certification that says generative AI was used, because I don't want that out in public, that I'm using generative AI to draft my documents. I don't use generative AI. I use it for, as I said, on my transactional side. I do not use it on the litigation side in order to draft up any of my motions or documents. And I don't plan to until it becomes a thing that is used by the general masses. We are nowhere near there. And in fact, I
think it's sooner than you think. I think we are.
Well, nowhere near there, maybe months or days or years or whatever.
Yeah,
but
I think it's.
But what I'm telling you is
I'm shocked at the amount. I'm shocked at the amount of litigation I'm seeing that is clearly using it.
Fair enough. Listen, I'm gonna have a very hard time with a firm that has my name on it, and only my name on it, having any scenario where I am going to put out into the world something that was used AI, for fear that it made it up.
Sure.
Fair.
You know,
That's fair.
And I will say, to go back to Mike's point, both of you guys made this point. It takes a lot to review something that someone else drafted to confirm its accuracy, authenticity, everything else. Go for it, Mike.
Not just that, but like, so I had a different case where the person was clearly using AI, and I know that because it was a lawsuit that was over $500 that was 35 pages and had 145 averments, and most of those paragraphs had a different case cited for each point. So you're talking about like it had several hundred cases cited, and like just going through that and being like, this is fake, this is real, this is fake, it takes forever.
Yes. And I mean, I'll tell you, on my end, it's just easier for me to actually see the case, put it in, and check it myself in real time, right?
Yep.
The big firms had the advantage of drafting up something and then having a team of paralegals go through and check every citation to make sure it's not effed, right? Even that, though, takes a lot, and all it takes is one miss, and you're all of a sudden in a situation of you're being asked to have a motion to show cause as to why you shouldn't be sanctioned for making up case law.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I will say, in a lot of these cases, the attorneys are like weirdly doubling down on things when they could just say, my mistake, we'll file a corrected thing. And that would make that would be less of a problem than getting, like in the case we discussed earlier, a $5,000 sanction against you. And by the way, national press in the legal world.
Well, I was going to say, I was actually going to mention that in that case. The $5,000 sanction doesn't mean a goddamn thing.
No, that's pointless.
And that is why I think that's why Castell did it, was because he's like, your firm and your lawyers are kind of screwed. 5,000 is a token thing, but your firm is going to have a hard time coming out of this. Like,
potentially.
You Google that firm and go to news.
Mm-hmm.
That's what's on. That's it. That's the news. It's that and people's commentary on it, which is going to be tough for them to ever get out of that.
So we've talked about attorneys using AI in their drafting of documents. And while it is a giant pain in the ass to go and double check, you are able to double check. You are able to go and find the case law. You're able to search Lexis, state court databases, those kinds of things. One of the things that is really troubling to me right now is we're now seeing people getting caught using generative AI to create evidence, which is not something you can look for in a legal database. There are a few examples of this that I just want to go through to kind of illustrate the nature of the problem. In the first instance, this was a trial over a shooting death in Arizona, where the victim's family created essentially a deep-faked victim statement from the deceased person, asking the judge for leniency. Now, the judge knowingly allowed it in, knowing that it was not, obviously he's dead. Like the judge didn't miss that part, and decided to allow it. Also gave the guy the maximum sentence. So, not clear how much they considered that.
Who put the evidence forward? I'm sorry.
The victim's family.
Asked for leniency. Okay.
So interestingly, no, they had the deepfake victim statement ask for leniency. The individuals in the family themselves asked for the maximum.
Wait, so the victim's family submitted the statement from the victim asking for leniency? I'm confused about that.
I'm confused too. So they submitted.
It's not the defendant. The victim put that forward.
Right. The victim put forward a deepfaked video of the dead person, with the dead person asking for leniency, while all the individual family members asked for the maximum sentence. So, yeah, Mike is giving a look, and I understand it's weird, but the judge allowed it in.
Okay.
Not clear how much weight. I mean, it's also sentencing where the rules of evidence don't really. Yeah. The rules of evidence get fuzzy when it comes to sentencing. But in that case, it was knowing, and the judge allowed it in. Mendones v. Cushman v. Wakefield was a housing dispute. And in that lawsuit, the plaintiffs were caught attempting to enter into evidence an AI-generated video of a witness testimony, or a witness's statement, essentially, And the judge was at least savvy enough to recognize that this video that was being introduced was not kosher, let's say. And eventually was able to, get them to admit it was AI and dismiss the case as a result, which is good. That's what should happen when the plaintiff is introducing fake evidence. And then this last one, the most troubling, is a law enforcement officer's body-worn camera caught on video the officer asking ChatGPT to write his police report of an incident based on a couple of photos and a sentence. These are the ones that they're catching.
Yeah.
And you know that there are others that they're not. And I find that to be the most troubling aspect of this. Like, the other time and energy has to go into double checking everything. And that is a problem, but not, not the worst thing in the world, we'll put it that way.
Imagine going to a grand jury where there's not another party jumping down your throat, questioning every piece of evidence.
Yeah.
And like they could make everything. God, that probably will happen.
It is not great. Not great.
This is, I had not even considered this, and that is another frightening aspect. Okay, well, on that depressing note.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk about that could maybe lighten the mood. We could talk about like copyright and, AI generated music and images not being or not being eligible for copyright, which I believe the Copyright Office has issued statements saying this is not copyrightable material because copyright necessarily involves a human creating something, and a human writing a prompt that generates something is not, there's not enough creative energy going into it to create copyright.
But if you modify it, then if you had it give you the basis, and then you start
there becomes
moving around. Now he has a red shirt. Now you had to make a character. Now he has a red shirt. Originally, the AI gave him a blue shirt.
If you create, if you create 3,000 AI generated images, but use them to manually create a like photo collage, none of the images were created by a human, but the overall image was. Presumably, that would be copyrightable. At least the full image, but the individual photos, I don't think would be. It's going to be incredibly complicated. Now Disney has licensed like their characters for use by one of the AI systems.
Sora, owned by OpenAI. Yeah,
that'll go well for them, I'm sure.
I mean, when they weren't doing it, you could still make Disney characters on the other ones. It just they were attempting a lawsuit. You could have Meta make you Ricky Mouse, and they did a pretty good job of it.
Get the like. Did y'all watch Chernobyl? In the last episode of Chernobyl, there's like a Soviet version of Mickey Mouse statue in a like school playground. I feel like those systems will give you the Soviet version of Mickey Mouse, essentially.
Yeah.
Although now there's the additional problem of you can just install you can just install Stable Diffusion on your personal computer. You're not that, and then it's not, a company you're paying for their service. That creates a whole another set of problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I will note, because I've been looking this up, this has been applicable as to how different countries are handling the AI thing.
Oh, yeah.
And
I really only know how the U.S. is dealing or not with this.
And the U.S. is mostly taking, as we discussed, that like the U.S. Copyright Office as well as courts are saying AI generated images cannot be copyrightable. China's going in an opposite direction. They're not fully going with a like AI images can be always copyrighted, but they have set forth a test. I want to say this was a few years ago. This was like maybe late 2023 or early 2024, where they came up with a 4-element test to determine whether an image constitutes a work under the Chinese copyright law. And the four elements are: belongs to a field of literature, art, or science, possessing originality, having a form of expression, and being a result of quote unquote intellectual achievement. And when they are looking at the AI generated image, they pay attention to intellectual achievement and originality. And so they say there's got to be a sort of a human being has to be involved, but it could be like a human being giving specific text prompts to generate the AI image.
Sure.
So the short version is it's coming out a little differently in different countries, and I'm sure I've just done a sort of quick look into the EU, China, and the US, but
yeah,
I could see a scenario where this is going to differ across the world, which is going to be a little interesting down the line. Yeah.
I will. So this is fairly niche, but there is currently a proposal for a change to the rules of federal evidence around expert witnesses and the degree to which expert witnesses have to disclose any use of generative AI in analyzing their data or whatever it is that they are synthesizing for the jury. For the listeners, an expert let me back up a little bit. Generally, if you are testifying in court, you are testifying to factual information that you possess firsthand, whether it's something you witnessed, something you heard, something you saw, something you did. Witnessed and saw are the same thing, whatever. Expert witnesses are allowed to give testimony that is opinion. They are giving their expert opinion on something that is not generally within the knowledge of the jury. Often like medical diagnoses and treatments, complex financial things that, a jury isn't going to be able to look at 8 years worth of spreadsheets and determine X, Y, and Z. You need an expert to come in and do that. But if the expert has used an AI system to analyze those 8 years of spreadsheets, the court needs to know about it. They need to be able to show what, under this proposal, show what the inputs into the model are, how it's being trained, all sorts of different aspects of the methodology that was used. So I'm interested in seeing whether or not the courts adopt that. It's at least a first step in addressing one aspect of this.
What do you guys think about attorneys being replaced by AI or AI replacing, most at work, desk jobs in general?
It's going to make getting an entry-level job very difficult because they're going to be fewer because a lot of that, like I said, can be done reasonably reliably. Derek?
I'll just note, I'll note that, and again, I don't think it's going to replace, I personally don't think it's going to replace our jobs anytime soon. However, it could certainly replace, like Geoff said, newer, what we'll call baby lawyers. Big firms are already having an issue where, their clients are not paying for first years, sometimes second years, sometimes third years. And I could see a scenario where, and again, the firms are struggling with this. They have to bring in new people because they need new blood every year, and they need people who are billing at lower rates. They need people to do the research and everything else. But they are not only not profitable, and by the way, even when I was there, at a big firm, 16 years ago, that's a number I did not think I was going to say out loud. When I was there, we were already having a hard time trying to figure out how to make first years and second years profitable. It's now significantly worse, but they need them because they need to train them. They need them to sort of get experience.
You need second years who are profitable.
Correct. Or I'm told by big law partners that you don't get profitable until your fourth year, which by the way totally tracks because you're learning and getting more efficient and getting better and blah blah blah. But what's interesting is at some point, and we may already be close to it, an AI program can do 70% of their job. And once you get it trained right, and a lot of the big firms are developing their own internal AI engine and everything else, they're going to be better. They're going to be more efficient. It's going to be, what do you do at that point? Do you not hire first, second, third years? Do they have to go somewhere else to learn and then you hire them as a fourth year? Do you just hire them with the understanding that they're not going to be profitable? Like, it's a very interesting area. I don't think it's going to impact, and I say this, I don't think it's going to impact my ability to be a lawyer. Like, I don't think they're going to replace me as a lawyer. However, every day I'm learning more things that AI could do to better my firm. Maybe not in the legal side necessarily, but on the administrative side, on things along that nature.
Sure.
It's certainly impacting my day to day. And every day I feel like I should know more, and I'm becoming dumber because I don't know it. So it's, yeah.
So I imagine now I come from the nonprofit sector. I get paid a salary. We don't charge an hourly rate for my legal work, but trying to put myself in the mindset of, a partner at a firm who's trying to manage things. I imagine the pressure isn't just, internal or from the courts. You also have clients who know that AI exists and like, I'm not going to pay you, $1,000 an hour to draft a contract that ChatGPT could write, even though we all know that that ChatGPT isn't going to write a contract of a caliber as an attorney who is able to command a $1,000 an hour rate.
Correct.
But the clients don't necessarily know that. The clients are not necessarily sophisticated.
I've had this conversation a lot with my clients because they ask me, like, or sometimes they send me something, be like, I threw this in a ChatGPT. What do you think? And I tell them the same thing, which is, in the right situation with the right prompts, a e-forms contract or a ChatGPT contract or whatever, it can get you decent the way there. It can't get you all the way because it doesn't know your business well enough. It doesn't know your clients well enough. It doesn't know your situation well enough to know what I think are important aspects in there. Is it a decent form? Yes. And I say to them, don't worry, I've got my templates, I've got my forms. I'm not starting from scratch when I write your documents.
Right.
So when they send me something, I typically say, I've got something very similar, but it is a little bit more sophisticated, and it's a little like, I have these already ready to go. So that's what I had that conversation with my clients. I'm like, I'm never starting from scratch when I write something for my clients. It is rare I am starting from square one, unless it's a very unique agreement that I've never seen before, which is rare. And even then, you can normally have something that's close to it that you can sort of start from. What's going to be interesting, and I still think certainly I have colleagues of mine who are more, especially colleagues who like only, like we call them like fractional general counsel. So people who only represent businesses and they're there sort of as effectively an external, legal counsel to businesses. And so all they do is the transactional side, not the litigation side. So a lot of them use these different programs, and the programs can generate it pretty well, pretty quickly, and get you like 96% of the way there because they have a little bit more development internally. It still requires some human interaction though. And I'm curious how close we get to a point where it doesn't require it, or is it always going to require it because you have to have eyes on it?
I wonder how much of, now, again, I've never been, partner at a law firm, but setting aside like the networking aspect of things, the rainmaking aspect of things, a lot of firm management could easily be done, like you pointed out, by AI systems. And is this potentially a threat to law firms that have like dozens of partners that maybe don't need them? I could see a ChatGPT, an LLM model trained on like a Nate Silver-esque database of the attorneys in the firm and the candidates for attorneys in the firm, and saying this person's performing below average, this person's performing above average, this partner is bringing in, has lost money, this partner hasn't.
That's already happening. Like the business management side of firms is heavily changing because of the stats they can develop. And in fact, I'm told, I do not know this for a fact, so I can say I've learned this upon information and belief, that they're at a point where firms or maybe even companies can identify based on number of emails sent and other things like that, whether someone's being productive in their job. Like, it's starting to get to that point.
Sure.
Ugh, that makes me feel gross.
And which is gross. It's absolutely gross. But that's where we're going. We're going to stats. And it's the same thing with like, I mean, I'm a sports guy. The sort of standard stats of a few years ago is now replaced by advanced stats. Like, you know, in baseball, it's not about, you know, your batting average anymore. That doesn't mean dog shit. It means like it's the advanced stat of like, what do you bring to the team and how many, for you being on the team, how many more runs does the team score compared to a replacement of yours? You know,
should we do Moneyball?
100%.
That would be cool.
I'd have a blast with Moneyball.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because that'd be actually really interesting. Also, I actually like the movie, and so we got that going for us.
The one last point that I wanted to make to actually answer one of your original question. So again, my job is different in as much as I am very often, if not always, arguing for the law to be something that it is not. And as a result, my job necessarily entails making novel arguments, which is not something that the LLMs are going to be really able to do, at least in with the current technology, because they are predictive text on steroids. They are not coming up with their own arguments.
Right. It's still in some ways it's still garbage in, garbage out in some ways, right? Like you have to give it the right prompts in order to get the right thing out. But I mean,
and then of course there's the bar associations being gatekeepers. The bar associations are never going to let like an AI practice law. There was a story a while back of a guy who he had like, you know, an earbud in.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Essentially he was offering like a, I don't know, crazy bounty, like $1 million bounty to someone who would let him have an AI.
This is also like
dictate their arguments. Yeah.
Like as somebody who like still has been playing with these things for as long as they've been out, he was trying to do that 2 years ago. I think it was 2 years ago. And just think about how bad they were then.
Yeah.
Like they're significantly better now, but it's still filled with errors. Like trying to do that 2 years ago would have just been spitting out nonsense.
Yeah.
Right. That was, I'm trying to remember. Was that the do not pay one where it was like they, like the AI was designed to listen to courtroom discussions in real time and generate responses to the user? Something like that, right?
Yeah. Actually, so that raises another issue. And now I get to talk about Microsoft and my ongoing battle with, I am perennially on the verge of just installing Linux on my work computer because I'm so sick and tired of Windows and all its bullshit. But so the new Copilot and I guess Claude are essentially using, or could at the drop of a hat, be enabled to train models on essentially everyone's cloud stored stuff with Microsoft OneDrive, all this stuff. As a group of people, the three of us who have to keep client materials confidential, there is a real problem using those materials to train an LLM, where if you drafted the right prompt, draft me an email in the style of Derek Moore, and if they had enough material for you, it could pull accidentally confidential client information into an email. And apparently, at least as of about 6 months ago, there was a reporter who was talking about this issue and the fact that Microsoft has not considered at all how to prevent confidential materials from being incorporated into things, because they fundamentally misunderstood how law firms operate. And they're like, well, no, because everything is only being trained on, the firm's material. And the reporter's like, no, you have to, this attorney representing this client may not be able to share information that they have with someone else in the firm because there's a firewall or who knows what. You can't intermingle those things. And they, at least at the time, had not really considered that. It's incredibly troubling for people have to think about confidentiality. Doctors too, because medical records are being fed into various models.
Yeah, I mean, it's still the reason why, like, to access some medical records, you need to go like to a fax or something because
there's a reason that you still have fax machines at law firms because that is the most secure way to send medical records.
Right. It's why I have an e-fax for my own firm.
Same.
Yep.
There are some courts that still have in their rules, like your signature block must contain your fax number.
Yep. Yeah, I've practiced in a couple of them.
Yeah.
And then my brain hurts. But I get it. I get it because you have these things like this where you're worried what's going to come when during an electronic submission, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has
gone
been fun.
longer than the Her episode.
we've literally gone longer than Her. Oh, not as well, close, sadly.
After
this
the
edit. This was uplifting.
This was going to be a rough conversation when we knew that going in.
Oh, and I'm sure we're gonna have to come back and have a part 2 or part 3 because things are changing real quick, as Mike said.
Yeah.
All right. It was a pleasure, guys.
Was it?
Yeah, it was a good time. It was a good time.
It was a good time.
Much.
All right. The Not So Grand Jury is sponsored by Morwa P. LLC.
The opinions expressed in the Not So Grand Jury are those of the hosts themselves and not of their respective employers.
The theme music for the Not So Grand Jury is from Gustav Holst's Jupiter and is in the public domain.
If you'd like to get in touch with us, if you want to suggest future movies, or even if you want to offer corrections, you can email us at notsograndjury@gmail.com or message us on any of our social media accounts.
The Not So Grand Jury is copyright 2026, all rights reserved.